Hello, welcome to Inspiring Inkin. I'm Amanda Fowler and this is Crochet Craft Along. If you're here, could you send me a message, leave a comment, send me some hearts, something like that, and I will check that I am live on Facebook in the right place. And it seems like nothing's happening on Facebook, so let's just try that again. Bear with me a second whilst I just try and log in again. Yay! Yep. Hooray, 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 hooray. So, Michelle's here, Janet's here, Debbie's here, hello, hello. Right, so I'm just gonna see if I can get this straight and tightened up. Hopefully that's all gonna be okay. Brilliant, Maureen's here, Claire's here. Okay, how are we doing? I've seen some of you already today, but if I haven't yet, welcome. Welcome. Sue's here, Scylla's here, Janice is here, Pat's here. Fantastic. Okay, so this is going to be an adventure. I'm really excited, but actually I am slightly a bit terrified because I only started crocheting at the beginning of the year, so I am not an expert in any shape or form. I enjoy it. I have been making stuff that I'm really proud of, and yeah, I've been learning as I've been going, and I'm just really excited that you guys want to hang out and do some crochet with me. So this is how it's going to work. If you were watching my craft and chat earlier today, I've decided that on Thursdays at 2 o'clock, that's when I'm actually going to do crochet. So for those of you that are outside of the UK, we are going back into lockdown on a Thursday for at least a month. Originally it said until the 2nd of December, and now everything I look at, it says the earliest will be released is the 2nd of December. So I think it would probably be a good thing to kind of touch base twice a week. So craft and chat will be at 2 o'clock on a Tuesday, and then I'm going to put crochet in at 2 o'clock on a Thursday. So this is week 1, and I'm going to do week 1 part B on Thursday. So particularly for those of you that haven't quite got all of your things that you need, or are absolute beginners, it just means then that I can touch base with you again on Thursday and we can kind of check and see how we're going. So I'm just going to check on the comments, check who's here, and then we'll get started. So Val's arrived, Mum's arrived, Anne's here, Nancy's here. Hello again. Oh, Chris has brought Angela as well. Hello, Angela. Hillary's here. Janet's here. Pat's here. Brilliant. And Val's saying Thursdays are fine with her. Okay. So I am really, really pleased. Now, I've split the scarf into 4 parts, and we're going to start again. The way this is going to work is over the next 4 weeks, I'm going to release a section of the pattern for the scarf, and each week in the session that I run, I will show you the stitches that you need to complete that week. So sometimes it will be stitches that you've learnt before and it'll be a reminder. Sometimes it'll be a new stitch. Sometimes there'll be hints and tips and different things that you need to know and learn. At the end of the time, I will release the pattern as a whole PDF so that you can print it off in one chunk rather than in 4 bits, if you like. I know some of my North American friends are in the house. I have written a pattern that is just for you guys. So there is a UK terms pattern and a USA terms pattern. Please download the right one. And here's a top tip for any of you who've been crocheting for a long time, who might find patterns and get confused as to why when you're crocheting them, they don't turn out right. You can always tell a USA crochet pattern because they have the term single crochet in it. Single crochet does not exist in the UK. We don't have single crochet. We start at double crochet. So if ever you're not sure whether it's written in one language or the other, then that's how you can tell. And if I'm talking complete gobbledygook because you're a brand new beginner crocheter, don't worry. Just use the UK one and you'll be fine. Okay, so Debbie's saying Thursday will be good, and thank you for the North American version. You are welcome. You are welcome. And it's strange because I am used to converting between the two. I don't even kind of translate it, as it were, now. I just know because the stitches are the same, they're just called different things. Okay, so let's get started. Now, I've recommended this book, and if you are a beginner, you need this book. And the lovely Alison told me about this book, and honestly, it's fantastic. And it tells you all the things that you need to do, and if you get stuck, it's really useful. And also, it gives you images like this, which shows you what it should look like and how to count rows, because that's important. Yeah, so they're the written patterns. So let's talk a little bit about crochet and what we're going to do today. So I'm going to go through the basics. I'm going to show you how to hold your yarn and your hook. I'm going to teach how to chain and do single crochet, double crochet, treble crochet, various different stitches. Don't worry too much about remembering everything and learning everything. That's why I'm doing this live. It'll be recorded, so it will always be on my Facebook page, so you can come back to it. It'll be on YouTube and on my blog, so you can come back to it and pause me and double check to see where I am and how I'm holding my hook and what I'm doing. Everybody crochets differently. Everyone holds their hook differently, they hold their yarn differently, and everybody, absolutely everybody, has to tear stuff out. And I'm even going to show you how we do that and what happens, okay? Because I don't want you to panic about anything. So let me start with talking about hooks. So this is the hooks, or this is the hook style that I prefer. It's called a Clover Amore hook, and it's got a really soft handle, but this section isn't very long, okay, which is a bit of a downside, but it's really nice, and it's got some kind of coating on it, so it means it slips kind of easy. Cheaper hooks might have little burrs on them or little paint spots, so it's worth, if your yarn is getting stuck, then you might find that you've got something that's catching, so just kind of take an emery board to it and that will really help. Your hands, both hands, because one holds the yarn and one obviously holds the hook, are going to get tired. So this is going to sound crazy. You need to exercise your hands and give them a rest. Okay? Wiggling round your wrists, doing this with your fingers, shrugging your shoulders, moving about. You will need to do this. Okay? You need to make sure that the blood's flowing to your hands and your shoulders. But also, you need to be aware that if you're doing something for the first time, or if you're sitting for a long time, you will get sore hands. So take a break. So I say this actually with my card making as well. So 20 minutes, half an hour, get up, walk about. Like I say, do your finger stretching exercises and your shoulders and stuff, move around, because sitting for any length of time is not good for you, and particularly with so many of us in this lockdown situation at the moment, we need to be active. Okay, so I want you to do that. I take my wedding ring off because the way I wrap my yarn, which you'll find is weird in a minute, I can't crochet with my rings on, so I'll take that off because it gets tangled. It doesn't work so well. So those of you who are experienced crocheters, have you got any other tips for a brand new person, a beginner? Can you share them? Because this is a learning process for lots of people, and I'll just check the messages. Val says she's got the book, but she needs to read it instead of just looking. Debbie's ordering the book. Yeah, Debbie, it will work for you as well. It does have... so it does have... okay, I'll start this again. The UK version has the conversion for the different stitches. I'm guessing if you buy the North American version, it'll probably show you the right way round. But it is quite straightforward. But it's such a good book. Hi, Barbara. No worries. She's popped in and popped out again. You can catch me on the replay, that's fine. And Angela's watching as well. Pat said she got her book in the Works for £4. That's fab. So the Works is a UK store. Right, so Chris is saying, relax your shoulders before you start. I tell you, we're going to have crochet exercises. Actually, I might do that. Maybe like week 3. I have a little exercise program for you. You better remind me to do that. That'd be really funny. Right. So what else do I need to say to you? Oh, okay. You need to be calm and relaxed when you are crocheting. The more stressed you are, the tighter your crochet gets. And then it gets really hard to get the hook into the yarn because you've pulled everything really tight. And the thing is, as you relax into your crochet, all of a sudden the stitches will get kind of loopy and easy for you to put your hook in. And you kind of realise that actually how stressed you were to begin with. But also stress can come from pressure that you're putting upon yourself about, you know, getting it right and getting stressed about it. This is not a stressful thing. This is about having a bit of yarn fun and hopefully making a lovely scarf. It will be a lovely scarf regardless of whether the sides are wonky, the stitches are wrong, or any of those things, and it will be made with love. So whether you're going to keep it or gift it, then it's going to be awesome. So I'm going to show you the scarf briefly, just so you know. Now, I was wearing it in Craft and Chat earlier. It is over 70 inches long. So it is a long scarf, but I made it that long for lots of different reasons. The first is, you saw me wearing it wrapped around, but I usually wear my scarves like this. So I wrap it round and thread it through like this. So this is how I normally wear a scarf. And again, that's why it's about 6 inches wide and it's quite airy and, I won't say holey. It's not holey because there aren't holes in it, but it's not really tightly, it's not like a really tightly knitted jumper. It's much more relaxed than that. And that's because of the hook size that I've used. So this is a 6mm hook. It's a J hook for in the US. And normally when you're working with this size of yarn, you would be working with a 4 or a 5mm hook. But I've purposely used a bigger hook because so many of you are newbies and it's much easier to get in and out of the yarn with a bigger hook. It's easier to see the stitches with a bigger hook. And that's why the scarf is so long, so that you can wrap it round a couple of times. So there is a fringe. We have fringing. We have stitches. We have holes. These are holes on purpose. We have, that way round. We have bubbles. We have decorative stitches. We have holes and bubbles and more decorative stitches and more bubbles and more stitches and more fringing. Don't panic. Honestly, this is great. So, every scarf pattern, pretty much, that I have looked at on the internet when I first decided to do this, they're all the same stitch all the way along their whole length. And as a beginner, that's kind of boring. I wanted to learn different stitches. So this is the scarf that when I started, I wished somebody had designed for me. So I'm hoping that you will feel the same way too. We will see. So I think I'm going to turn the camera around and let's get started with the crochet. Are you excited? I hope you're excited. I'm excited. Okay, right, I'm going to cover you over whilst I flip the camera around. Ooh, I want to try it and do that. Let me move everything out of the way. Let's see. Okay. So there's the scarf. So this, I meant to say, this yarn is mandala yarn. This colour is called Gnome, and it's got green and purple and orange and pink and blues. It's really beautiful. This colourway, this is what I'm using today, is called Spirit, and it's all blues and greys, which is really pretty. This yarn is a roving yarn, so I know some of you have bought this, and I don't want you to worry. Sometimes with the yarn, the way the yarn's spun, sometimes it will look a bit thicker and sometimes it'll look a bit thinner. It's designed that way, so don't worry about it, okay? This is called a yarn cake, and we are going to work from the centre of this when we get to that point. So there's my hook. I've also got a tape measure, a pair of scissors, and the thing that I didn't put on the list that I should have done is a darning needle. Okay, so if you're using more than one ball of yarn, you're going to need the darning needle. And if you are concerned about the colours, and I'll show you that as well, you might need a darning needle. So it's worth putting that on your list of things to get. Okay, when you get the pattern, it will go through at the beginning all of the different names of the stitches and what they are, so how you make the stitches. So that's in on the first page and a bit onto the second page. I'm calling it the Kira scarf, by the way. And then you've got the rows. And this is something, this is why I'm saying this is this. I've designed a scarf to be the scarf that I wanted when I first started, because we're going to do 13 rows all of the same, and I always had scrap bits of paper and I could never remember where I was. So these are little tick boxes so that you know exactly where you're up to. And then we've got some more tick boxes. So in the first week, in theory, we're going to be doing 50 rows, but most of them are the same stitch. So that's quite straightforward. Okay, so this is what you're going to be downloading when we've finished. So I'm just going to open up the book, because as I show you things, I'm going to show you in the book as well. So the first thing that you need to learn how to do is to make a slip knot. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get my yarn out of my cake. Now, this can be tricky. So you have to kind of stick your fingers in and pull. And people who know all about yarn call this yarn vomit, because it's all going to fall out, look. What I'm actually doing is I'm trying to find the end. And there's probably a much better way of doing it than what I'm actually doing, but we'll find it. I can't find the end. See, this is what it's all about. Oh, Deb's saying that she likes my little boxes idea. Yeah, well, for me, I want to make it easy. Right. I obviously... Ooh, I found the end. Hooray! Okay, I'll just move that yarn out of the way. Okay. Right, so there's your yarn. This bit is called your working end, your yarn tail. And this is, so this is the tail end of your yarn. Now, I make a slip knot like this. I make a loop and I get the yarn that's attached to the yarn cake, and I pull it through and I make a slip knot like that, and I just pull it, and it's basically a slip knot where you can pull and open up and close. So let me just show you that again. So I wrap it around my fingers and I just pull it through like that. Okay. In the book, they actually use the hook to do it. So they loop that and put your hook in and pull it through. I don't know how they do that, but there we go. That's how I do it. Or you can follow the book, either. You need a slip knot. Nothing. You're not going to be able to do anything until you've got a slip knot. Okay. Make sure that you've got at least 4 inches of yarn tail. I normally have about 6 inches because you need to weave that in at the end. So having a yarn tail like that is a good plan. Okay. So now you have got to hold your yarn. Now, holding your yarn is how you make the tension on in your project. And lots of people do this in lots of different ways. And you will probably try 4 or 5 different ways of holding your yarn until you find one that works. Now, the way I do it is I wrap the yarn around my little finger. I go in between those 2 fingers and I lift it up, and I use my index finger to pull, and that is how I get tension on my yarn. Let me just move my hand again. So let me just show you again. So I wrap it round my little finger, in between my 3rd and 4th finger, and then up over the top, and then that's where my tension is. And I hold my working part like this. If at any point I'm saying anything or showing something that you don't understand or you need me to do it again, please put a message in the comments. And I appreciate if you're holding yarn, actually typing is actually quite tricky. But just put it down and try it. And actually sorting out how you're holding your yarn is something that you just need to keep practicing. And that is what's going to happen with everything that you do for crochet. You're just going to need to keep practicing. So in the book, holding the yarn and holding the hook. So here they've wrapped it around the little finger and they go straight to the index finger. And that is how I do it. Method 2. Which actually I didn't know that was in the book, which is quite interesting. And then there are really 2 ways of holding your hook. So some people hold it like this, like it's a pen. So they're holding it between their thumb and their 1st finger, and they're resting the hook handle on their hand like that. I hold it like the way I hold a knife. Actually in my hand. And the reason that I moved to this type of handle is because particularly when I started out, I would grip this really tightly and this part of the handle would stick in my hand and would make my hand sore. So that's another reason why I know that you really shouldn't really grip hard. If you've got white knuckles, that's a bad thing. Okay. So you sort out your yarn, you sort out your hook, and you've got your slip knot on. Now the first thing we are going to do is make a chain. Now the chain is a stitch that we're going to use several times during the scarf, and we're going to start now. And basically what your chain is you wrap the yarn around the hook, and I twist my hook a little bit so I know that the yarn is stuck on the hook, and pull it through the slip stitch, and that's made one chain. So wrap the yarn around the hook, pull it through, that's 2. Wrap round, pull through, 3, 4. We need 24, by the way. 5, 6, wrap it round, pull it through. Now if you pull really tightly, actually I'm going to bring this up a little closer so you can see a little bit better. So I'm going to wrap it round, pull it through, and what I'm doing is I'm taking this piece here through that loop on the hook. Now if that loop is really tight, it's actually quite difficult to get it through. So you just need to make sure that you're not pulling tightly on it. And again. And again. Now the yarn here, this is loose, but it's tighter up here where your tension is. And you'll find that if the yarn here is tight because it's not pulling out of the ball easy, then this will get tight as well. So every now and again, give the yarn a tug so it slackens off. And I've got no idea how many chains I've got now, but I'm going to show you how to count them in a second. So we need 24 chains. So let's have a look. So you will find that yarn chains twist. You just need to be aware of what you're looking at when you're looking at a chain. So I'm just wondering, would it help you if if the camera was a bit lower? I think it would. It's going to be, I'm just going to bring it down a little bit. So you might go a bit wobbly. So hang on. Let's just see if I can. I don't want to bring it down too far, as otherwise I don't want to get my head in the shot. Right, okay. I'm hoping that will be a bit better. Does that help? I'm hoping it does. So, important things to know. I'm just going to take my hook out. Okay. So important things to know. The loop that is on your hook never ever counts. Okay, so you don't ever count that loop on the hook. And then your stitches, so I'm just putting my finger over the top of that loop that's on the hook. Your stitches are usually a V shape. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23. Right, I need to do one more. So on this chain, each one of these, so that is a chain, a single chain. So I just need to do one more. So wrap the yarn around the hook and pull it through. Okay, now you are going to be counting at the end of every row if you are a beginner, and at the end of every row even if you're not a beginner. And the reason for that is you won't want wonky sides, and if you increase or decrease stitches by mistake, your sides will go wonky. So, right, we're going to count again. So the loop on the hook doesn't count, but that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24 stitches. So that is correct. So we have got 24 stitches on the hook. So we are going to do one row of double crochet. If you're in the US, that is single crochet. So I'm going to wrap that around. And a double crochet is, you're going to insert the hook into the second chain from the hook. But I've just realised something really important. Like really, really important. Which is going to mean that I am actually going to undo those chains. Okay? If you, like me, are using a colour changing yarn, you need some of this colour at the beginning for your fringe. So you need about 2 meters. So I'm just gonna pull that off, as otherwise you won't have the right colour. If you're just using one colour, don't worry about it. But if you're not, like me, you need to do that. Okay, so I'm just going to redo that. So I've got my slip knot and I'm going to chain 24. One, 2, 3, right, I think that's 24. Just have a slurp of some water. Okay, so we're not counting that loop on the hook, so that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24. Okay, so there are 24 chains, and before I got distracted with the fringe, we are going to do a row of double crochet. Now, the first stitch, or the first time your hook goes into these stitches, it goes into the second chain from the hook. So we don't count that loop. This loop here, that's the first one. This loop here is the, oh, hang on, I'm out of shot. Let me try that again. So we don't count the loop on the hook. It's actually quite tricky to get it so you can see. So we're not counting that one. When that's the first chain on the hook, and that is the second. Okay, so I'm putting the hook through, let me hold this like that so you can see, through the second chain. So I've put the hook through the second chain. I'm wrapping the yarn around, and it's going through 2 chains on the hook, and that's made a double crochet. And you are going to do that same stitch all the way along. So this, where to put your hook was one of the hardest things for me to learn, and I think it's one of the most tricky. So what I want you to always look for is look to see where the chain is. Right, Sue's saying I'm frozen. Hang on, let me just pop that down. Let me just, give you some more power and see. I look as though I am still live. Can you just give me a thumbs up or a message? Depending on whether or not. Haha, oh no, okay. So, sometimes you need to refresh the page. Okay? I'm hoping that is okay. Right. So, as I was saying, this for me is as always the tricky bit. Where do I put my hook? So always look to see where your yarn is. So at the moment my yarn is in there and in there. Ooh. So this here is the next stitch. So you're going to put your hook in, yarn in, yarn round again and pull through. So that's your second stitch. So each time you're putting your hook into the stitch, yarn round the hook, yarn round the hook again, and you take 2 stitches off and you're down to 1. So I'm just going to repeat that for the whole row. And what this actually does, you can see here, it's just going to give you a nice edge that we can put the fringe in. So each time, this is double crochet, so you're putting your hook in, pull through, yarn round the hook again and back. So I'm just going to finish this row. Obviously, if you're watching this on the replay, you are going to be able to pause me. Oh, let's just try that again. I was off busy doing a different stitch. So for my North American friends, this is single crochet. It would be if I was actually doing the right stitch. It's single crochet. For the UK, my UK people, it's double crochet. So each time the hook is going in the stitch, wrap the yarn round and pull through. And this is a stitch that you are going to use quite a lot later on. It's not very tall, so the way crochet grows is sort of how many times the yarn is wrapped around the hook. And because this is only wrapped around once as it pulls through, the stitch is not very tall. So yeah, it's not a stitch I use a lot because I like things to grow quickly. Let me just get to the end, nearly there. Keep going. See, I don't crochet really quickly. It's interesting though because I've got my elbows on the table, which is a bit weird. Oh, put that one in there. Right. Now you are going to get to the end and then you're going to be able to see, and it's much clearer now, you're going to be able to see these little V's all the way along the top. And each little V, it looks like a little piece of corn. That's kind of what it reminds me of. Each little V is a stitch. Now you need to count those. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22. Okay, so that's strange, isn't it? Because we started out with 24 stitches and we went into the second stitch from the hook. And that's because right back here is another stitch and you can't see it easily. So there is a stitch here. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23. We don't count this one here on the hook. Okay, so you will see in the pattern, I talk about 23 stitches all the time. Every row you need 23 stitches. Now, those of you that are experienced crocheters, this is really important. On the pattern and the way I crochet, I do a single chain at the end of each row as a turning chain, and it actually says it. Chain 1 and turn. So we have just worked all the way along that chain there. So now I'm doing chain 1. So a chain 1 is wrap the yarn around and pull it through. And then I am going to fold my work over like a book. And we are going to work along this way. Now, as you can see, the the little V's are still there, but we're actually looking at the reverse of the work. So be aware of that in a minute when we are doing the next row. So that chain 1 doesn't count as anything. It just helps you turn around. So you can see, although there's there's yarn here, we're looking for our first V, and the first V is just there. That is your first V. And the next stitch that we're going to do, and we're going to do this for about 14 rows, is called a half treble. And this is one of my favourite stitches because it's straightforward and easy and it grows quick. And it's what gives you this lovely effect. Hopefully you can see here. It's sort of a little bit lacy, but it's really decorative and I just love it. Okay, so a half treble means the stitch that we're doing now. So you are going to wrap the yarn around the hook, and then you're going to put the hook underneath that V stitch. So it looks more complicated than it actually is, but I've wrapped the yarn around, and if you tilt your hook a little bit, so you can see, look, that my hook is really holding on to that yarn, and then you stick it underneath that V, and you're sticking it underneath, hang on, let me show you, you're sticking it underneath the 2 parts of that V. So if I pull this backwards a little bit, you should be able to see it. So you've got the 2 parts of the V there. So it looks like you've actually got 4 loops on your hook, and then you're just going to wrap that through, put it through. You're going to wrap the yarn around it again and pull through. And you're left with 3 loops on your hook. You're going to wrap the yarn round and pull through all 3 loops, and that is a half treble. So I'm going to show you that again. So the first movement is you wrap the yarn around the hook. You then take the hook and put it underneath both bits of the V. Underneath. Pick up some more yarn and pull it back through. So you're pulling it back through underneath those V's, and you end up with 3 loops on your hook. Wrap the yarn round and pull through. So wrap the yarn around, underneath that V, wrap the yarn, pull through, 3 loops, and pull through. I'm going to carry on doing that. Let me know if that makes sense. Wrap the yarn under the V. Yarn again, yarn through. So I'm going to show you this way as well. So I'm talking about these V's here, but when you're looking at the back of the work, you can actually see there is a little hole underneath the V, and that's where it's going. That's where your hook's going. and as I'm working along, I'm holding the work that I'm doing in the same hand as my yarn, and I don't know, those more experienced than me may actually be able to shed some light on that, but it's just the way I always work. So I'm just going to get to the end of the row, and then we'll have a quick count. And we'll see where we get to. Right, now, when we get to the end, do you remember we had kind of a stitch that didn't look quite like a stitch? It looks like a bit of a lump. So what you need to do is just wiggle it about until you can find the stitch. And I wouldn't worry too much about it. Just kind of stick your hook in there somewhere. Find a hole and get your last stitch in. Crochet is actually really forgiving. Okay, so we're going to count again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23. Hurrah! That could have been a disaster. Okay, so that is a half treble row. Before I carry on, does anyone have any questions? Particularly those of you that are brand new. I know some of you were practicing your chains and things. So I've just got my book back out. So there is a section on double crochet. And then this one. So this is the half treble. This is what I have just done. So you put a loop, so you wrap the yarn around, you put the hook through the loop, you pull through all 3 loops. Okay. Okay. So Val's saying that she's got lost and she's going to check when you can pause me. And I think that is actually the best bit about this. You can pause and refresh and so on. Okay, so you will find with the pattern that so that was row 2, half treble crochet. You are going to do another 13 rows of half treble crochet. Okay, and then you are going to make these squares, these square holes. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to show you how to do the square holes. And then on Thursday, we can have a bit of a refresh and see where we get to. So in order to make a square hole, you need to do a full treble crochet. So the stitch that we've just done was a half treble. The next stitch that we're going to learn is going to be a treble. So my North American friends, that's a double crochet. So we've got to the end of the row. We do a chain one at the end of the row. So wrap the yarn around the hook, pull through, and then flip the yarn over. Okay, so again this time you can see, and I'm going to bring this back, I don't want you to get confused, because when you're looking at this, this looks like the little V's, doesn't it, here? But the V's are on the very top. Can you see? And those are the ones that you're working on. You're not working on the sides. So when you're holding this, check all the time that you're working on the top. Okay. So let's wrap this around my finger. Now, a treble crochet is almost the same as the half treble. So what you do is you wrap the yarn around and you go through that V, and you wrap the yarn around and you pull through, and you've got 3 loops on your hook. So the half treble, which was the stitch that we did before, we would wrap the yarn around and we'd go through all 3 loops. A full treble is a taller stitch. So the first thing you're going to do is you wrap the yarn around and you're just going to go through 2 loops. Wrap the yarn around again and go through 2 loops. So it makes this taller stitch. We're then going to chain 1. So a chain is you wrap the yarn around and pull through. And then we're going to do a treble again, but we are going to skip a stitch. So this is the stitch here that we've just worked in. When you look at the top, that's your next V. So we're skipping that one. We're going to work in the one next to it. And we're going to do another treble. So you're going to wrap the yarn around, go through that stitch, wrap the yarn around, pull through. And you've got 3 loops on your hook. Wrap the yarn around, go through 2 loops, wrap the yarn around, go through 2 loops. And that is your first square. It won't look like a square right now, but I promise it is. You're going to chain 1. Skip a stitch. So we're not going into that stitch, we're going into the next stitch. So wrap the yarn around, put your hook through, pull through, yarn around, pull through 2, yarn around, pull through 2. It's your second hole. Chain 1. Wrap the yarn around. Again, we're skipping a stitch, going into the next stitch. Yarn around. You've got 3 loops on your hook. Yarn around, pull through 2. You've got 2 loops. Yarn round again, pull through 2. And then chain 1. And you'll be able to see, hopefully now, we've got the treble stitch there. You've got a skipped stitch, which is what's making your hole with the chain. And then you've got a treble again. So I'm just going to carry on along this row. So a treble and a chain. skip a stitch, a treble stitch, and a chain, skip a stitch, a treble stitch and a chain, skip a stitch, treble and a chain, skip a stitch, skip a stitch, treble and a chain, a treble and a chain, and then the last treble is going in the last stitch. Let's just put that down, and you should have 11 holes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Okay. Now, the holes should all be even and not on a diagonal. If they are, it could be that you have not skipped a stitch or forgotten to do a chain. If that's the case, this is what you do. You grab hold of the yarn on the ball end and you pull. And you can pull it back as far as you need to go. It's not like knitting. It doesn't unravel all the way back. You're not going to lose stitches and things. It just will pull gently. So I am just going to redo those last little bits. Ooh. So treble, chain, treble, chain, and the last treble. Okay, so there we go again. So we've got the 11 stitches. Now, let me just tell you that these are all the stitches that you actually need to learn. So you've done chain, you've done double crochet, you've done half double crochet, and we've done treble crochet. Those 4 stitches are going to make everything on this scarf. That's all you're going to need to do. Yes, we're going to do them in different variations and in different orders. But if you just keep practicing those stitches, you will get everything done on this scarf. Okay, so you'll see on my scarf, there is actually 3 rows of holes. So we've just done the row of holes, and then we've got like a middle row. So I'm just going to show you how to do that middle row next, and then I'm going to finish up for today. So we've got to the end of a row, just going to count to check that we've got the stitches. So the very first stitch is right kind of at the end here. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Ooh. Right. This is why when I said about picking your yarn, I told you to pick something that wasn't fluffy, because if it is, it's difficult to see the stitch definition. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 21, 22, 23. So let me just show you this here. So there is 2 stitches here. Maybe you can see that. So be aware when you're counting. So at the end of the row, you're going to do a chain 1 and we're going to turn our work. Now we are putting a half treble all the way along. So a half treble is a stitch that we did just a minute ago. So you're going to wrap the yarn around the hook and put it through that first V. Yarn round the hook. You've got 3 loops on your hook. Yarn round and pull through. So that was in your first treble. Now you're going to put your hook in what's called the chain space. So we did a chain here and we're actually going to go in the hole. So you're going to wrap the yarn around, you're going to stick the hook through the hole, yarn round again, pull it through. You've got 3 loops on your hook, yarn round and pull through. Your next half treble is going at the top of the treble. So you've got, it looks like a tree trunk there. And you've got the V at the very top and you've got like a triangle shape and it's actually going in the triangle. So it goes in there, pull through, 3 loops on the hook, pull through, yarn round. So again, this time we're going in the chain space and pull through all 3 loops. So you're getting yarn on your hook. And again, we're looking for that triangle hole there at the top of the treble. And in the yarn, in the chain space. So in the top of the treble, on the triangle, and in the yarn space. And what this actually does is it stabilizes your holes. So it stops them kind of collapsing. And you're just going to do that all the way along. So each time you're putting 1 stitch into the top of the treble and 1 into the hole or the chain space. And I'm just going to go all the way along and just show you the end of that row. Now bear in mind you're going to be following the pattern, so before you get to these holes you will have done 13 rows of half treble, but it will just take too long for me to do the whole thing in the video. And then in the last one, just wiggle it so you can find the stitch and put your hook in and pull through. So I'm just going to pop that down, pull that out. And just flatten it out. Okay. So again, before we do the next row, you're going to chain 1 and then you're going to turn it around. So I'm just going to push that to one side. I'm going to bring in the scarf. So you are going to get to, by next week, hopefully, you're going to get to here. Let me fold that over. So this, I don't know that you're going to be able to see all of this in the shot. So you're not going to do the fringe. The fringe is absolutely last, so you're not going to do that. but you're going to do this section, which is half trebles. You're going to do these 6 rows. So you've got a row of holes, a middle row, a row of holes, a middle row, row of holes and a middle row. And then you're going to do all of this half treble. So by the time you get up to here, you are going to really know how to do your half trebles. Now, I want to point out a couple of things. If you are using yarn like mine, which is colour changing, you will find that this happens. So you will get to a point where the colour will swap completely from one colour to the next. And different yarns do this in different ways. Some of them kind of blend 2 colours, and some of them, like this, it's a real definite change. I don't mind that. I'm perfectly happy with that. I just let it run. If you don't like that, if you want it all to be the same, let me see, where have I got that? There, I think. Okay, so if you want it to all be the same on a row, what you will have to do is you will have to pull it back. So once you've realized you've come along here and you've gone, oh my goodness, that color is changing. So you'll have to pull it back to the end and then start with and cut your yarn and start again. So what I will do is on Thursday I will show you how to do that if you get to that point. So you should be able to start getting to the holes on Thursday. So that took a bit longer than I was thinking, but that's okay. This is new to me, and I'm really grateful that you guys have hung around. How are you doing? How are you doing with your chaining and your crocheting? Let me know, and I will finish up for today and get the PDF loaded so that you can download that and get going again, and then pause me. I've got a few hearts, which is really cool. I will be putting this both on my blog and on YouTube, so if you're watching this on the replay, thank you very much. You won't be able to see the comments, but I have been reading them out as we've been going. You will be able to download the PDF if you are watching on a replay on YouTube or on my blog. There will be a link to it, so you'll be able to get the replay there. If you've got any questions, let me know. Put them in the comments or send me an email, amanda@inspiringinkin.com. So Chris is saying, how many rows to the end of the half trebles? So your first row is double, then you've got 15 rows of half trebles, then you've got the holes, and then you've got another 27 half trebles. But you'll be able to download this in a minute, Chris. So you'll be able to see. So it's actually 50 rows. And you will have a little bit over a week anyway to get to this point. So I'm going to be back here on Thursday, and it's still going to be part 1 on Thursday. So if you've got questions, let me know. If you are not sure what you're doing and you want to send me a picture, you can send me a picture, either email it to me or join the Inspiring Inkin Creative Corner group and upload a picture there, because then that's easy for me to be able to see it. Nicola's saying it's all good, she's enjoying it. That's good. Nicola, were you a crocheter before, or is this new to you? I will obviously need to get on and get this done. So I'm actually gonna be working with this colour at the same time as you guys. Oh, thanks, Sue. She's saying clear instructions, she just needs to get the tension sorted. Yeah, Sue, honestly, that was one of my trickiest things. And for me, it was how I wound the yarn around my fingers. And I kind of put like an extra twist in it. So that really helped me. But that said, I don't think my tension is that even all the time. It really does depend on how I'm feeling as to how loose it is. So, you know, and using this bigger hook, using this 6mm hook with double crochet or lightweight 3 yarn will really help, because it's easier to get into the stitches and you can actually see the holes better. Whereas lots of times people get you to start crocheting with a really tiny hook and really tiny yarn, and it's miserable because you can't see what you're doing. Right, so Pat's saying tension problem here as well. So Sue and Pat, is your tension too tight or too loose? Which way round is it? So Scylla's saying that she had to take hers back because it was too tight. Yep. And Val's looking forward to Thursday, hoping to have get started then. So yeah, so let me know with your tension if it's too tight or too loose. And do always have a lot of kind of yarn out of the cake or out of the ball. That will make a difference, particularly if it's too tight, because it's pulling from there. Nicola said she couldn't read a pattern or remember the different stitches. So let me just quickly, this is the last thing, because you've been hanging out with me for ages, which is really cool. I really appreciate it. So at the beginning, there is the instructions of each of the stitches and the abbreviations. And these are standard abbreviations. So pretty much wherever you go and look at crochet patterns, these are standard abbreviations. So that's the first thing. And when you get, so we've done a chain, a double crochet, a half treble and a treble. When you read this and you read bubble, ignore that. That's next week's. So don't worry about that. And turning chain. This is different. Over the months I've been crocheting, I've learnt that I need to do this turning chain 1 at the end of every row. It makes the edges neater for me, and I don't like to put lots of chains in the edges. And those of you that crochet already will know all about turning chains and lots of stitches, and I don't like it. So this is my pattern and I'm doing it the way I find it easiest. I have tried to write the pattern as clearly as I can, but also in like standard terminology, so that when you read somebody else's pattern, it won't all be alien to you. But like I said, having little square boxes to tick off is nobody seems to do that, and I don't understand why. You will see it says at the end of every row you've got 23 stitches, and check, and then you chain 1 and turn. Questions? Ask me all the questions, and I will do my best to answer and to help. So Pat's saying it's too tight. Okay, so again, try and relax your hands a little bit. Pull your yarn out of your ball so it's kind of it's kind of loose. That might help. Yeah. And what was Chris was saying about shrugging your shoulders? Do kind of, yeah. Try not to grip everything too tightly. Karen's going to watch again. She's still on chain row 1. That's fine. So you'll do your chain row, then you'll have a row of double crochet, and then you'll start on your half trebles. Chris is saying, Sue's saying it was too loose but not that bad. She started with small hooks, so using a larger hook's taking some getting used to. Yeah, it's interesting. I think it was Chris that said that she used to use like really fine yarn and sort of do lacy things and stuff. Yeah, I've purposely gone with a big hook to make it hopefully easy. That's my plan. Okay, so I am just going to pop this scarf here. So it just, oh no, actually, it's all right. I always have a little image at the end of my video so that I can use it for the thumbnail, so people understand what it is that we've actually done in the video. So let me just pull that in a little bit more, and then hopefully YouTube Facebook will allow me to use this as a thumbnail. So thank you so much for joining me this afternoon for the first crochet along. As I said, I will be back here on Thursday at 2 o'clock. And I will just be going through all the stitches again, doing a quick recap of the stitches and answering questions and so on, and showing you how to sort out if your yarn changing colour isn't what you want. So I'll go through that. I'll go back through all of the stitches, and then hopefully you'll be ready for week 2. Fantastic. Scylla's just said, Eureka, she's got it now. She can get the hook in easily. Yeah, and that's the trick. That's when you know that your tension is good, is when your hook goes in easily without kind of wobbling about in there. But you don't have to really press hard to get it in. Okay, I will see you all then on Thursday. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. I will put the downloadable part 1 pattern onto Facebook in a couple of minutes. I've literally got to go downstairs and upload it. So you'll be able to download it there. All right. Take care. Thank you very much. Goodbye.